drømmende om at flyve i selskab med Calbee.
So, ready for a 100-mile hike in 2 days. This is great. What the? What the? But I need all this shit. No, you don't. What the? Knives. Very important. Don't be that guy. So with that said, welcome to yet another video here from Expedition Hawk. Today's video will be for the absolute beginners in hiking. If you haven't already been out hiking yet, or if you're just considering getting into the outdoor life, this video is for you. 10 tips for beginners in hiking outdoor life. Let's dig right into it. Okay, so we might as well start right now with tip number uno, which will be: don't plan your first hiking trip with too great distances. Keep it on a lower scale distance-wise. Maybe just go for a day hike, a short day hike with your preferred newly bought backpack, where you pack down all the gear you think you need, and then take a short day trip. See how it is. See how you carry this backpack. See how the weight is, and take notice of how your body reacts on carrying that weight on a hiking trip. So that must be tip number one. Don't plan out with too great distances. And if you rely on shelters along your hiking trail, bring an emergency shelter, like a tarp. There's plenty of videos out there on how to make an emergency shelter out of your tarp. Just a simple A-frame or a tarp tent or whatever. So I would definitely bring a tarp if you rely on shelters on your first hike, if it's a multiple day hike. So yeah, not too great distances. And why I think this tip number one is very important is because I think a lot of people underestimate the weight they pack their backpack with. So they get surprised of how long it's going to take them to cover that distance, which sometimes are quite optimistic. So yeah, for sure, start with a small distance with your preferred backpack. And now let's go over there and take tip number two. Okay guys, so on to tip number two, which will be backpack and weight. You know, you can't make a great burrito without having the correct tortilla. And what I mean by that is you need to have the correct backpack for you. You need to have a backpack that can contain everything you need, but it doesn't have to be overkill. This right here is enough for me for a 3-day trip outside where I can sleep comfortably, eat, drink, whatever. 3 days in this backpack. So too many people, too many beginners, that is, including myself when I started out. You know, when I started out hiking, the intro you saw, that was pretty much me. So I learned the hard way, don't bring too much stuff. Don't bring 3 pair of pants for a 3-day trip. Don't bring 4 knives and 3 axes and 2 saws and all kinds of stuff. Don't bring food for 8 days, water for 8 days if you're not going to be out 8 days. It's that simple. So in other words, just pack what you need. I have 1 set of clothes here for for 3 days, I just pack some extra underwear and some extra socks. That's it. So tip number 2 is don't overpack. Don't overpack. Don't overpack. You don't really need so much stuff. But a great way to find out if you overpack is to combine this tip with tip number 1, short distances. Start out by packing for 1 day. Go out for 1 day, see if you needed all the stuff in your backpack. Do a 2-day trip. Pack everything you need for a 2-day trip in your opinion. See if you used all the stuff for 2 days, and so on. But with short distances, so you don't have to carry it from here and to Egypt. And I can tell you Egypt is a long way from here, but you get my drift. You know, start out slow. Get the correct backpack and pack the stuff you need. And also a little bonus tip here is water is heavy, very heavy. Only pack down the water you need, or just slightly above what you need. Or, as my personal favorite, plan your hiking trips where you have access to fresh water. That way you don't need to carry so much water all the time. So that's my personal favorite. I always plan my hiking trips where I have access to fresh water. So that's just a little bonus tip. And now it's time for tip number 3, safety. Tell your boyfriend or your girlfriend or family, friends, neighbor, whatever, where you plan on hiking. Just in general the area, or if you know a specific spot, tell people where you're going at that spot. Bring a mobile phone, send a text message, make a call if you know you're in areas where you have connection. If you don't have connection, if you plan on going out into the wilderness where you doubt that there is any good connection, get a Garmin InReach Mini or something, which can tell people via satellite that you arrived here and you're okay and all this. The safety aspect of hiking is very important. Even very experienced hikers can get into trouble, and it's very nice to have the ability to let people know where you are. So a Garmin InReach Mini would be a perfect solution for that. Yeah, very, very important. Safety. On to the next tip, which is number 4. Oh my god, I almost look like a snowman now. So number 4 is, if you're a beginner in hiking and outdoor life in general, don't rely on fire alone to cook your dinner or to cook water, stuff like this. Bring some type of cooking system, because you can get out into an environment where it's very difficult to get fire, especially if you're a beginner. So bring some type of cooking system. And you see right here in my 3-day backpack here, I said I brought everything here for 72 hours. I have food right here, all kinds of lighting in this right here, and as you see here, I brought my big down sleeping bag, which is the Mountain Equipment Glacier Expedition, which I also have a video about here on my YouTube channel. I will put a link in the description down below for a review of this sleeping bag. I have a tarp here, as I explained in tip number 1, a Jetboil cooking system, an X-Pad Sinmat 9 long white, which I also have a video about here on the channel. I will also put a link in the description for this one. And of course the Amok drummer hammock right here. This is actually one I borrowed because I don't have my own at the moment. I even have a pocket shower here and a towel and a pillow. So lots of goodies right here. And it's very important that you... What the... It appears my battery died on the other camera, but I brought a spare battery. But it appears even my spare battery is dead for some reason. Must be the cold, I don't know. But luckily I brought a backup cam right here, so if the sound has changed a little, bear with me. It is because the other camera is dead. But as I was saying, bring a cooking system so you don't rely on fire only. And just to show you what I also use for water filtration, I have this right down here. I have a 800 milliliters Nalgreen bottle right here, and I also use this the BeFree, the BeFree water filtration system. I have my food stuff here, my emergency kit, And I of course also have a lot of small stuff right here, which I can show you quickly. My sunglasses here and a light here for nighttime walking. I also have one knife here, and I also have a hydration system on this pack. In this pocket right here I have my lighting stuff, a lantern and a headlamp. I really dig this new little lantern right here, the Gold Zero Micro lantern or whatever it's called, Lighthouse Micro or something. But yeah, so let's get on with it. I wonder if the quality is the same as the other camera. And also I have to wear a lavalier mic now, so I wonder if sound is just as good or better or whatever. And now onwards to tip number 5, which is bring an emergency kit. Someday, God forbid, you might need it, so bring an emergency kit, bring an emergency kit. So that was a quick tip because that's not up for discussion. Just bring that emergency kit. Tip number 6, clothing. Wear clothing in layers. Right now I'm wearing a Carinthia MIG or MIG 4.0 jacket, and under that I'm wearing a very thin hiking hoodie right here, and under that I'm wearing a base layer of merino wool. Same here at the pants. Underneath these hiking pants right here I also wear a layer of merino wool, and these hiking pants here are actually wind and waterproof. And the great thing about suiting up in layers is that you can just remove a layer if you get too sweaty, because you don't want to get sweaty. So take off a layer, put in your backpack. So that is definitely tip number 6. Clothing, layers, very important. Windproof, waterproof. And if you don't have a waterproof jacket like this Carinthia MIG 4.0 is both windproof and waterproof. And if your hiking clothes ain't waterproof, bring a lightweight set of rain garments, a waterproof set of clothing. You can just keep that in the backpack. It doesn't take up too much space. So that's definitely tip number 6. Clothing in layers. And this actually is a very nice beanie. I love this. Norwool. Great. Onwards to tip number 7. Don't get sweaty. If you start to sweat, take off a layer of clothing and put in your backpack. You don't want to be sweating, because if you do so, the moment you sit down and take a break, or if you're on your way to bed in your sleeping bag, you will start being cold. So that's just a bad idea. Merino wool helps on that problem because it stays warm even though it's wet. But yeah, I would say in general, just don't get sweaty. And a part of this tip is also don't get in your sleeping bag while cold or sweaty. In my experience, it actually helps me if I eat something before jumping in my sleeping bag, because then my core is working and that helps me stay warm. And now we're talking really, really cold conditions, because this sleeping bag is a freaking monster. I can sleep in this sleeping bag with just wearing my boxers while it's snowing and still be warm. So, but yeah, don't go to bed cold. Maybe just do a couple of jumping jacks or, push-ups or whatever, just to get warm before jumping in the sleeping bag. That is tip number 7. Don't get sweaty, and don't get sweaty or cold inside your sleeping bag. So now that you're in your sleeping bag, that brings me to tip number 8. Are you scared? Afraid of the dark, eh? In the beginning of your outdoor life, it can be a little scary sleeping outside alone in the woods, pitch black. A lot of people won't admit this, but grown-up adult men, grown-up adult women, especially in the beginning of their outdoor life, be scared less of the dark, being out there all alone. So a good way to start being more comfortable being alone in the dark is bring something that takes away your attention from lying around in your sleeping bag, in your tent or in your hammock, and being like, what was that? What was that sound? I wonder who's out there, and all this, because it's normal. It's not you who's just a chicken or a coward or something. it's pretty normal, especially in the beginning. So bring something that takes away your attention from that. Storybooks, so you can lie around with your headset on, listen to stories. Or movies on your phone, download them to offline viewing before you leave home. That's also a great way. Or a little pocket radio or something. I even have a little pocket radio in my backpack because I just think it's nice to being able to lie around in my hammock or in my tent and listening to a little music, stuff like this. But normally I actually also always listen to storybooks when I'm outside. So that's just a tip for you that will definitely help you be more comfortable in the beginning of your outdoor life. You have to get used to being outside alone in the dark, and that can be scary for a lot of people in the beginning. But don't get discouraged. You will handle it. Just take away your attention. And now, tip number 9. If this is the beginning of your outdoor life, don't go absolutely mental shopaholic crazy and buying all kinds of creme de la creme, top of the elite, state-of-the-art hiking gear. Stop. You don't need to spend all this money in the beginning. Maybe the outdoor life isn't even for you. So if you can borrow a tent and a sleeping bag and a sleeping pad, take it outside, take a hiking trip, see if the outdoor life is even for you. Sleep outside in the night, in the woods, in the dark, everything. See if is this something you even like before buying into all this kind of stuff, because a lot of hiking stuff is pretty expensive if you want quality gear. And I've seen so many ads of people selling their absolutely state-of-the-art hiking gear, and then it says in the ad, only used one time. And that's crazy, man. It's just crazy. You don't need to spend all this money before you know if this is even something that you like. And even then, you don't need to buy all the state-of-the-art hiking gear. That's a matter of taste. And if you don't have someone you can borrow the stuff from, buy basic gear and take it out in the summer. Sleep outside in the summer, because basic, very cheap gear from whatever shop, I don't want to name any shops or anything, but if you buy very cheap stuff, summer season is absolutely more forgiving for using that kind of stuff. So try it out before spending all those money. And that brings me to tip number 10, which is have fun. You need to have fun. But you get my drift. It's important to have fun, and don't be living someone else's dream. Don't be living someone else's hobbies, because just because you saw a lot of cool pictures on Instagram or whatever. I noticed lately, and for quite some time now, especially van life. The van life culture has been so in. I just see so many times lately that, people build van life and, we're going to travel the world. You and me, baby, and the sunset, and we're going to travel. And, then they get to the neighbor country, they drive directly back home, and they put up their van for sale. That probably wasn't their dream. They just saw that on Instagram and all kinds of other places, Facebook and whatever, and thought, that must be the coolest way of living, right? No, not if you're not that type of guy or girl or whatever. I do van life too, but I've always been loving van life. I've always been loving adventure. I've always been loving nature. Even when I was a child, I told my parents, I'm going to live in a van and I'm going to travel the world and I'm going to go into nature everywhere. I've always loved this. It's always been my dream, these hobbies. It's my hobbies. I love this, So what I'm saying is, don't be living someone else's dream just because it's hip or cool to be an outdoorsman or outdoorswoman or traveling in van life or whatever. Just your own dreams. If you want to be a part of the outdoor life, if you want to get outside, go outside. But don't do it just because you saw a lot of pictures of it on Instagram or whatever. Let me give you an example. The other day I saw on Facebook, on an outdoor group, a woman who posted, I think, 11, 12 pictures of her hiking trip. 10 or 11 of the pictures was, and one picture was of the scenery. You get my drift? Maybe she's outside because it's hip, because it's cool to post pictures from these kind of places, but we didn't even see the places, and that's just what I mean. You need to be outside because you love to be outside. Because if you don't, if that's not what you want, it's not going to be a lasting hobby for you at all. Outdoor life is only a lasting hobby for outdoor loving people. And if you're one of those, get outside. And if you're becoming one of those, you're in for a treat. So that was it for this video, guys. 10 tips for the beginner hikers, for the beginner outdoorsmen or outdoor women. If you like this video, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to stay tuned for more videos like this. And I hope you all stay safe and are enjoying life, even though we are in these crazy COVID times. But luckily, we can still get outside. So stay tuned, guys. Expedition Hope, signing off.